Good evening, everyone. Here is Abdullah speaking. Welcome back to another part and another episode of the series The Cave Lion Identity. Of course, guys, we've been debating and discussing and through informative narratives on the past episodes about the identity of the cave lion, the Panthera leo spelaea, the Eurasian cave lion, and the Panthera leo atrox, the North American lion. And through these videos, we've been debating and discussing, and we've actually went through what was the narrative, informative, and interesting documentaries as broadcasts about the cave lion. And with this one, we are going to continue on from where we were left off with. And that will include the genetic diversity of the cave lion. So last time we were debating the cave lion, it's why it went extinct, what are the reasons, and we also debated its probable most likely probable reconstructions of it as artistic reconstructions or scientific reconstructions, or both of them merged together. And these were based on the skeletons found by the paleontologists and the biologists and the wildlife scientists and scholars, as usual. As of the cloning as well, we've seen how it was found, the two sets of cubs, and how the probability of the cloning of the lion, the steppe lion, is going to be possible in the future, just like that of the mammoth, as of the discovered mammoth, well-preserved mammoth, as well as other animals mostly in Siberia and other parts of the world where the Pleistocene megafauna used to be widely dispersed. So today we are going to be speaking and debating about another thing. This, for me, is another important factor which might lead, unfortunately, to the decrease of animals like the Panthera leo, the African lion, and the Panthera leo persica, the Asiatic lion. You look at the cave lion, the Eurasian cave lion, and you see a very, very important information out there available. But when you look at this animal, the most notable thing scientists say, especially about the latest occurring populations, they said that after they conducted a phylogeny of the DNA processing and investigating and studying and analyzing the DNA samples, they discovered that especially on the last occurring populations, as we said, that there was a certain biodiversity going into a less as of its formal range. Now, just to put this as simple as possible to some of our listeners here, the cave lion now have achieved a great deal if you speak about the DNA analysis because of the well-preserved remains of tissue or of skeletons. But the problem now is that with the last populations of the cave lion, it was shown and it was understood that the mitochondrial diversity of the animal went down according to its DNA. The indicative DNA indicated that there is a problem in the genes and that there was less biodiversity within the recent occurring populations of Eurasia and North America. Now, sadly, the cave lion went extinct. And just to piece together what this animal looked like we did in previous videos, let's just suggest one thing. Just like we find today the modern lion has so many species, the same thing occurred with the cave lion. We used to have so many species of the cave lion around the world, and just to say, to piece together this animal's subspecies. So we have subspecies, of course, from the cave lion, and if we trace these subspecies, we might come into a very, very disturbing yet important fact, imperative fact here, that indicates to us that this animal is truly magnificent and unique in its own way. And it's totally different than a modern day lion in some aspects. If we look at it, we used to have the East Siberian cave lion, and we also used to have the Eurasian cave lion in Europe, in France, for example, in southeastern, western and eastern France. Also, if we look at the cave lion, we also recognize that there used to be another subspecies that used to colonize the Yukon around places around Canada or near to Canada, Yukon and so on. It's not only the Yukon, but it's also said to have reached into Alaska as well. So all of these areas were colonized by cave lions, and it's a remarkable thing. Just let's imagine this. If we look at these pictures here, we can realize that the cave lion was colonizing a vast range, a really vast range, as of itself as a terrestrial mammal. And just to piece together what this animal would have looked like, we can look today at the fields in Africa, at the savanna in Africa. Let's, for example, focus on eastern, Africa, because it's most numerous these days of animals. The most numerous animal population is found there, and it's left with the biggest ever, animal migration, that is to say the migration of wild beasts and zebras around the Mara River from Kenya to Tanzania and so on. Now, if we look at these animals, we can really realize a very huge, let's say a very rapid increase in the population of the herbivores like the wildebeest. Now, just to make a little bit of comparative narrative here, if we look at the animals in the savanna habitat of the Serengeti and how the African lion is existing there, the East African lion, which exactly the subspecies of lion is Panthera leo, which is the Maasai lion, Panthera leo Maasai, I think. So that lion has a lot of prides, occupying a whole entire range that intersects with the migratory herds of animals in these regions. So the wildebeest, for example, would take a route, almost a circular route that follows the rain and the grassland, where the grass is most abundant. Then these animals would follow, and these animals would disperse around these areas to graze, as of them being grazers. Now, if we look at the wildebeest itself, it's one of the preys of the lion. It's a prey item for the lion, the Panthera leo. So if we just think of the vast, huge, and it's really magnificent, to me it's so mind-blowing, it's so amazing, and it's so fantastic. It's so, in fact, this is one of the most things that attracts me in nature, the Eastern African Serengeti, the savanna that still exists. I wish this still exists, all this upcoming 21st century and beyond, and for our next generations to see it, whether it's the Kenyan generation of our brothers in Kenya or other people from around the world who come as tourists and so on. But the thing is, if we just try to imagine, and I know this is very hard for a lot of us to really sit down and try to imagine something as big as this. If we look today as the same way we look at the Eastern African plains, the steppes, the savanna, the Serengeti, the grasslands of the East Africa, if we look today at places like Europe, northeastern, Asia, or Eurasia, which is the combination of Europe and Asia, if we look at things like, if you recognize North America, these, and even Southern America, so the Southern Americas, these places used to be vast, and it used to be covered with so much grassland, so much in fact that it was mostly grasslands, and between them are conifer forests and other types of forests, depending on the climatic regions. So the equivalent, I would say, of the wildebeest today is the bison. And if you recognize the bison today in North America, the bison today is a descendant of the old bison. The old bison was really huge. It's said to be so much big, in fact, that it weighed 1 ton, 1,000 kilogram. And today's bison, we have two different types of bisons in Northern America that are descendants of the old bison. So, and of course, there are many types of bison. If you look at the bison, I find the bison as one of the most fascinating animals. Just like just like I am fascinated with the Eastern African plains and the migratory herds of wildebeest. I am fascinated with these bison herds that thankfully were restored after they were almost extinct in the Northern American continent. If you look at them, for example, in Yellowstone, and in one of my previous videos, I said that if we reintroduced lions into the Yellowstone National Park, although this is very controversial and it might not happen, but if we want to make a successful Pleistocene rewilding like that, which is set to take place in Ukraine, as of the Pleistocene Park that is yet to be established there, we can reintroduce the modern lion to take the position and to take the the biological and the environmental role of the old cave lions. And I think that would be the perfect basically counterpart, or let's say the exact perfect animal that would replace these old animals, because they are similar and they are somehow from the same species. So just like I said, if we look at the bison today, it used to be the prey of the wild ranging cave lions in Northern America. And just to sit down and to imagine what it would have looked like in the Northern American grasslands, just imagine this. It was a huge grassland, and instead of zebras we used to have horses, equidae, and we used to have huge herds of millions, I think, of bison, also of other animals that are tapirs, which is still found in Southern Americas. There also used to be a lot of saber-toothed cats like Smilodon populator and Smilodon fatalis, but Smilodon gracilis was found mostly in the Southern American region. Mostly Smilodons of other species used to exist in Northern America. We used also to have the mammoth. We used to have other animals like the ground sloth. We used also to have other animals like the fascinating and very amazing and the biggest lion to ever exist in history, the Northern American lion, the Panthera atrox. Now, just stopping here to identify this. Now, the scientific name in Latin, Panthera atrox, means the fearsome panther lion, which is the Northern American lion. Of course, it was called the giant jaguar because it was not identified, but thankfully for the DNA analysis that proved it to be a descendant of the Eurasian cave lion, which is a descendant of the old origin of alliance as of the Musbak lion from Africa. So just to have an idea about that animal, its atrox means fearsome. You can imagine a group of these lions hunting in the savannah, like this picture that shows here from the American National Museum histories, and you can really be fascinated with this. This is very unique. You look at animals like the North American lion and how they used to hunt the bison, and you see something that is really unique, and historically, there is something there that is not found anywhere else. I mean, it's a northern region. Lions roam in the grasslands. Oh, okay, but usually lions are found in Africa. No. 11,000 years ago, they used to roam most of the land, like we said, and they used to occur on a mass range. So this, to me, if we look at the wildebeest and how lions are still hunting it in Africa, and we look at the Northern American lion and how it used to hunt the bison, then this gives us a reason enough to believe that they used to hunt in prides. The prey of the lions is one of the biggest ever. If a lion is to take a prey item like the mammoth or like the bison, like they used to do in the past, then this gives us enough reason to believe that they were hunting in prides, because no one lion can take down a whole entire mammoth, and we are speaking about adult mammoths. It's not a sick mammoth sometimes. I think they were in their prime condition, very healthy individuals. So this gives us enough reason to fantasize the fact that they, or to entertain the possible fact that they used to hunt in prides. And this would give us enough reason to believe that these animals were basically pride animals, social animals of the species of the lion, and so on. Now, just moving on to the idea of the reconstruction of the cave lion, I think according to this reconstruction here, which is very, very interesting, it shows us the various different possible, alternatives to so many theories of how this animal would have looked like. Of course, with mane, with scrotum, without mane, with underdeveloped mane, with all of these things are taken into account in these possible cases here as of these reconstructed beautiful arts. Now, if we look at all of these arts, there is a similar thing, and that is, I think, what is fascinating is the body structure and the facial structure. I think it tends to be more similar to today's lions than any other pantherine, that is any other panther within the Panthera genus. And this again gives us enough example. I think for me, I would say that gives us enough example to piece together what this animal would have looked like. Now, just because it was proven by DNA that the closest relative of cave lions is the modern day lion, of the Indian lion, Asiatic lion, or the African lion. If we really want to piece an animal together, then we can rely on the extant occurring and modern day living closest relatives. So turning into modern day lions in these reconstructions for me is very fascinating as well, and we can just entertain the possibility that these animals were very similar to modern day lions, and were similar in some more than just one way, and this would indicate that they were hunting in grasslands. The cave arts, as we mentioned in previous videos, give us clear enough reason to believe that they were also hunting in prides. So moving on, just the idea itself here, to try to fantasize and to imagine what it must have looked like, is really intriguing. How Northern America used to teem with life. Eurasia teeming with life, Europe teeming with life, Pleistocene. I want to dedicate thankful, I'm thankful for Roman Uchaitel, and he is a well-known artist for his, and I'm giving him the credits here as one of my references for the artworks here. These are not my artworks, except for the one that was on the start of the video, and of course that art is also based on Roman Uchaitel's arts. Roman Uchaitel is a great artist from Russia or Ukraine. I think he's Russian, and he is really talented to reconstruct most of the megafauna and the prehistoric animals of different various sizes, no matter what. And he reconstructed the Panthera leo atrox and the Panthera leo spilaya and the eastern Siberian lion. And he is, to me, his artworks are so fascinating and so powerful and so inspiring and so scientific and so artistic in their core narrative. Now, if we look at these artworks made and expressed perfectly by Roman Uchaitel, we can really see what this animal would have looked like somehow. And why I'm saying somehow is because of the different ongoing debates about this animal, because it's still on its discovery, journey. A magnificent journey of the discovery of the cave lion is still going. So if we look at the amazing works of Roman Uchaitel, we can bring this fantasy and this imagination of the old grasslands of Northern America, Eurasia, Northeast Asia, and Europe into fruition, into actuality, into life, and make them alive. So this gives us a clear indication that as long as the cave lion used to live in grasslands, somehow we can relate it to its modern day relatives. In many ways, they were the same. And once again, I would like to say that to some scientists, to some scholars of wildlife and biologists and paleontologists, they still debate whether or not those old European lions that were found in parts of southern and southeastern Europe and in like Greece, Italy, the Caucasus, Georgia, Russia, Hungary, Turkey, and so many other Eastern European countries. These lions are now debated whether they were Asiatic lions or the remains of old cave lions. That is still not clear until today, but mostly they were, I would say, Asiatic lions, because we know the fact that Asiatic lions came to colonize the whole entire Caucasus and Eastern Europe and Southeastern Europe and the parts of Turkey and so many other places, even in parts of Russia, after so many years, probably thousands of years after the extinction of the cave lions, Eurasian cave lions respectively here. So, just to say so is another fact which could be attributed here to the fact that although it is proven by the DNA analysis that the biodiversity of the cave lion and the mitochondrial diversity is low in the recent occurring populations, and also by here I would refer to the last remaining population of the mammoths, which was in some places of Alaska, I think, if I am not mistaken, that last occurring population of mammoths, I'm not sure which year it was, but it vanished, unfortunately, in historic times. I think it's not a prehistoric time that they went extinct. So I think the same thing goes to the aurochs, which is the ancestor of the domestic cattle. So the same might have happened with the cave lions. It's probable, but the sad thing, I think, today, once again, is that if we look at the low biodiversity and the low DNA diversity within the DNA samples of the Eurasian last occurring population of the Eurasian cave lion and North American lions, it is sad that today's lions might have the same, fortune, the same demise as of their prehistoric cousins. And I am so hopeful this will not happen. But if you look today at the African lions and especially the Asiatic lions, you see a population that is left, secluded and left in seclusion from other populations. So inbreeding is a danger here, and inbreeding is the breeding within the population itself, and that would make less biodiversity within the the animal genes, and that probably is what happened with the cave lion 11,000 years ago, even let's say 30,000 years ago. So it's probable one of the causes is the low biodiversity and the low mitochondrial biodiversity and the inbreeding. So if we look at especially the Asiatic lions, they are in danger of this, and I hope they will not fall into this demise. So with a few remaining lions in the Indian Gujarat state, I would like to say that if we look at the Asiatic lion today and we look at the reconstructions of the cave lion, we can clearly see similarities between them. Even if as we saw in the previous video, the skeletons of the African and the Asiatic lion compared to the Eurasian and the American cave lions, there is a similarity. So even with the reconstructions, it's still probable that they looked like the modern day Asiatic lions that are found in unfortunately, their last resort in the Indian state of Gujarat. So I really wish that lions recover, and I am more concerned about their biodiversity now more than ever because of the secluded populations. And I hope that they are given enough, of course I'm thankful also to the ongoing efforts from various zoos, from various biological communities, paleontologists, and as well as wildlife conservation funds and conservatives and conservationists from around the world. But let's hope that the lion today will not fall into the demise of the cave lion. And with that being said, let's conclude this video, and I hope to see you on the next video on more about the cave lion. So thank you very much. Peace.